If you're a custodial supervisor at a local high school, you know that cleanliness is key, and that the best place to get cleaning supplies is from Grainger. Grainger helps you stay fully stocked on the products you trust, from paper towels and disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Plus, you can rely on Grainger for easy reordering, so you never run out of what you need. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, Trojan family, what is going on? Welcome to the USC LAFB show. I'm Ryan Dyrud. That's Tim Prangley. It is Monday, right after a unfortunate loss for the USC Trojans against Oregon Ducks up in Eugene. We were live with you right after the game. Got a lot of emotional fans, as should have been. Some great calls, Tim, we got on the show and kind of went through it all. But today we wanted to get a little bit more into the game. That was more, the live reaction is kind of more just emotion based. This will obviously have some of that, but I want to dive into the game and kind of really look at, what went wrong for the Trojans and how they fixed it moving forward. So we'll kind of dive into all that. But first and foremost, Mr. Prangley, how you doing? How's the start of the week going? It's Thanksgiving. Hopefully you're going to be on break soon. How's life for you?
Just enjoying some vacation time and really looking forward to the UCLA game. I mean, I think USC after today we'll probably get past this and move on and get ready. I know the team's already looking forward to UCLA, but I think the fan base is still kind of licking their wounds and I'm there with them, just kind of questioning, going into the season, there was all that hope early on, really good. It kind of got squashed a little bit at Illinois. But that, big wins, against Michigan and Iowa really had this fan base revitalized and maybe a little overconfident going up to Eugene.
Yeah, exactly. It's it was a tough game. And let's start, big conversations obviously with the trenches, as there always will be with this USC team. And, I think I don't want to say is annoying. It's what should be the conversation, Tim, but it's always, I guess, funny to me how this conversation changes. It seems like every week, like against Notre Dame. Oh, yep. Still can't win in the trenches, this and that. And then they go and, do stuff against Nebraska, Iowa, and the others. And it's like, okay, this is a Big Ten football team. They've proven it. And then this happens against Oregon and the conversations open all up again. Now, They did get beat in the trenches. I mean, that's a fact. They got beat pretty bad. And we'll start with the offensive line. What's unfortunate is this offensive line unit with the injuries, this game finally kind of exposed those injuries. When you look at Elijah Page not playing, and when you look at, Killian O'Connor eventually going down with Jean-Ray Reed, who's played pretty well this year, as what was expected to be the starter kind of coming into the year, ended up being the backup. I mean, he's played pretty well. And then we love Kalen Miller, but obviously, his size as a true walk-on was a little bit exposed in this game. I mean, we'll dive into the numbers, the PFF numbers, all that. But what was your overall just kind of thoughts of the offensive line? Like, were you surprised they got beat around as much as they did? Or was it kind of just like, hey, this was just a unit that was a little outmatched to this Ducks defensive line?
I think we're seeing kind of a pattern. If you look at USC's run game, we'll just focus on the offensive line really quick. When you look at USC's run game against teams with inferior front sevens, right? And you see how USC dominated them, averaging about 205 yards a game on the ground. Just really running the ball well. Now, a function that partially is losing Waymon Jordan, Eli Sanders. There's no way that you're going to replace that. That's part of it. But losing Elijah Page, that's also another whammy right there. But against against Notre Dame and Oregon, USC averaged 70 yards a game on the ground. And that's just not going to get it done on the road. Both those games were on the road. And both those games USC just could not run the ball. And in both games, that put a lot of pressure on Jaden, who's made incredible strides this year. But we've seen in both those games that it starts becoming, third and long or on fourth down, Jaden's just kind of throwing the ball up for grabs. Even on first and second down sometimes, The problem was that the offensive line was being pushed right back into his lap on that throw to Jacoby Lane where he was absolutely pass interference. But I'm not going to talk about the officiating. It was terrible on both sides.
Yeah.
But besides the PI call, I still think he completes that if he throws it inside, but he couldn't because he's throwing off his back foot because the offensive lineman has been pushed right into his lap. So he didn't play the clean pocket at Notre Dame. He didn't play the clean pocket up in Eugene, and they couldn't run the ball. And we saw that this team just couldn't move the ball. So as much as I want to say I've been really high on this offensive line, when it comes when they're faced with a talent of a Notre Dame or an Oregon, they just haven't passed the test. They just don't look. They don't look like the team that they're playing. The same team that's playing like the Michigans and even Iowa game, really, for a better part of that game. They rushed for over 100 yards against Iowa, which was, I think, one of their better games that they actually had. So it's just rough to see. We want to see that progress. And you do see progress across the board, but you can tell that they missed Elijah Page. And the next season, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, Elijah has not been healthy this year. What is his NFL stock going to be like? I mean, you're more of an NFL guy, Ryan. The fact that he has been injured quite a bit, pretty much, during his career, but this year, a couple of occasions, hasn't got right. Will that affect his draft stock? And do you see him coming back next year?
I think he should come back because I think it absolutely will hurt his draft stock. I mean, it's been just such inconsistent tape this year, and being able to be with, Coach Hansen for a whole other offseason, I think will just only help his development that much more. The question in this, I don't want this to sound harsh or anything, but I don't know what his NIL is, but you never know if USC says, hey, like, we might move on from you. I'm not saying they're going to do that. I don't want anyone to hear that, but if you can't rely on a guy, I mean, the best skill set is availability. And if they have to continually shuffle this offensive line, because unfortunately he's had kind of injuries throughout his early career, nothing like crazy bad, but just like stuff that has kept him out. And if you have to keep shuffling this offensive line, again, I'm paying like doomsday scenario. Like they might say, hey, we might just go a different direction and try to fortify this offensive line differently. I don't think they will do that because I think when Elijah Page is healthy, he is one of the best left tackles in the Big Ten and would be potentially a first or second round pick if he can prove that health and status. So if you're USC, you got to say, hey, if you can come back and stay healthy, like we can develop you to be a first round pick. You'll be our anchor for the offensive line. But those will be interesting conversations because it kind of goes both ways, which we'll talk a lot about, Tim, obviously, once the season ends after UCLA. But when it comes to the transfer portal, everyone kind of views it as, just the players like, hey, I don't want to play here anymore. I want another opportunity. But sometimes it's the team as well being like, hey, we think you should go look at another opportunity, or we think you're a better fit somewhere else. We're going to go in a different direction kind of thing. And that does happen. I think that's what happened last year with the receiving core. When you look at Zachariah Branch and Deuce Robinson. And so that'll be a conversation. No. So, but to answer your question, I believe based on this year, he will be back at USC next year. I think that's what's best for him and what's best for the team.
Yeah. I think that he could use another year, but again, you never know. You never know when it comes back. I think he will grade out good the combine. I think he would do that. I think he's got the size, all the measurables, and he's athletic enough, so he would do well there. But I agree with you on the injury thing, and as well as the just getting a little more polished because he's missed games. He's missed games against the best competition is the thing. You know what I mean? He's played a lot of these lesser competition and played well. But this season, I mean, he missed both of the biggest games of the year. Really, he missed the two biggest games of the year, and it showed. It showed at Notre Dame when they couldn't run the ball, when they reshuffled the line, and it showed in Eugene. And that brings another question up. I know USC's addressing this issue where they're bringing in Kolajay and Kenai Pepe and guys like that. They're bringing in these big time 4- and 5-star guys like Elijah Page was a 4-star guy. But have you ever heard of an offense winning the national championship or heck, even making the playoffs with 3 walk-ons on their offense, playing in the most pivotal game of the year? I mean, I'm not sure if that's even unheard of. At one point you had 3 walk-ons starting this game. O'Connor got his scholarship, and I'm sure that both Millers will get their scholarships as well. But they came here not as 5 stars, not as 4 stars, not as 3-stars, as walk-ons at USC. So obviously, in the case of King Miller, clearly it was a miss for whatever reason, because he's definitely at a very minimum a 3-star that could have gone to a lot of schools.
Yeah.
But you can't win unless you have the horses. You can't do it. You go up against an Oregon or an Ohio State or a Georgia, a Notre Dame or a Texas A&M. These schools are just like loaded. And I'm not sure if you have it in front of you or if anyone out there knows, but if you drop it in the chat or drop it in the comments, I think USC in the overall rankings, they do that composite ranking they do of multiple years, the talent on the team. I think I saw USC somewhere at 15.
Yeah, I think I saw 19. Top
19? Yeah, okay.
Somewhere like there, yeah.
And I'm not sure what Oregon is. I'm not sure what Notre Dame is, etc. But I mean, good coaches will win, and we see it. We see lots of good coaches win with inferior talent. Don't get me wrong. But I think that USC's this 2026 recruiting class is going to be huge. But when can they be ready? These young guys, I keep talking, they need to take some steps. They've been taking a step back. So there are a couple of guys that were getting some playing time in this game that took huge steps back, that have been playing most of the season, getting a lot of playing time on defense, and just didn't look like it on the field. So we'll move to defense in a second. But before we do that, good transition is one more thing. Chad Bowden.
Mm-hmm.
Chad Bowden saying he's going to retain the roster, retain the talent. That's kind of, you triggered me when you said, triggered that thought when you said about losing Elijah Page. We played in the trenches, two guys that should be on the USC roster that both played significant roles in the victory for them, in Bear Alexander and Emmanuel Pregnon. I mean, I know that a lot of USC fans are kind of upset with Bear and some of the play he had, but there's no denying his talent watching him. Anybody that watched that game saw Bear, a very motivated Bear Alexander, even on offense out there blocking Eric Gentry into the end zone. I mean, it's like he was motivated, different guy. We could transition to defense, or we could talk about the culture thing, but I'll tell you this, I was wondering what's going on with Benny Wiley, and they moved on from Benny Wiley, and now they're with Coach True.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do much culture-wise in a short amount of time, but keeping guys, is it enough, Ryan? Is it enough to have Bowden retain the guys we need to retain, not lose a Bear Alexander, not lose a more important like a Pregnon, because Alexander left mid-season, but retain that talent and then change the culture? I mean, do you think we do that in 1 year?
Yeah, well, this will be a huge offseason. And, I tweeted something out, I can't remember if it was yesterday, but, Chad Bowden was hired, end of January. So he not only missed the entire winter transfer portal, but I truly believe Pregnon would be on this USC roster if Bowden was hired a month earlier. Like that whole story, and obviously it well, Tim, that whole thing was just bizarre. Like he was locked in. He played in the bowl game against Texas A&M. Like we talked to him in that week of preparation about that was when Zach Hansen transitioned from tight end coach to O-line coach. He talked about his excitement to play for him and what he is as a coach and all this. And then all of a sudden, 48 hours after the bowl game, he's in the portal and then up in Oregon 24 hours later. And, the whole tampering thing, that's a whole other conversation. But if Bowden's here, that's not happening. Like it wasn't like Pregnon was unhappy with USC. I truly believe it really came down to dollars. And maybe, other things here and there, but I don't think he was unhappy at USC by any means. So you figure if you have him on this offensive line, that's a totally different look for this unit. I mean, and then they try to go get DJ Wingfield to replace him. We know that saga of him being ineligible and whatnot. So this offensive line, in my opinion, I think you would agree, has overachieved this year. What they look like against Oregon is probably what they more, and even with missing pieces still with the injuries, but what they look like against Oregon is probably more what they truly are against top 10 elite talent, just because of all that transpired between December to, March. And so now with this offseason, which we'll get to much later, but with Bowden and his staff, like you're going to not only retain the key players they have, but you're probably going to add one or two, real quality players in the portal that hopefully has a higher hit rate than we've seen over the last few years. They can come in and have an impact. I mean, Pregnon was a transfer, right? He comes from Wyoming. They develop him here, and he becomes a true Power 4 elite starter that's going to be a high-end draft pick. And that was USC, developed him for 2 seasons. And then he goes to Oregon, and you see the finished product, unfortunately, now up at Oregon. So I still totally believe in this offensive line. It was a rough game. It was a rough outing, but I just think the injuries and then the talent discrepancy kind of unfortunately reared its ugly head in this one, going against a front in Oregon that is truly good. And, I mean, I guess it goes hand in hand, right? Talking about then Bear Alexander. And I think he's a really good player. We were all excited when he was here at USC, when he transferred from Georgia. There's a lot of reasons why it didn't work out here. We don't need to get into all that. I do think he had a good season, but you see this all the time. Like when players play their former team and they just have a chip on their shoulder and they just play out of this world. Like I think he played above what his season has been. That doesn't mean he's a bad player, but I definitely think he played a little bit better on Saturday, rightfully so. Than and a lot of that time he was, again, we love Kalen Miller, but he was going up against a walk-on for much of those reps. So,
well, even against Alani, yes, you and I were talking offline. I mean, he bull rushed Alani right into to Jaden's lap, which affects throws. And like I said, we can harp on that one. Yeah, I mean, I still think the nucleus of this offensive line is solid.
Yeah, I
think that the coaching job that Coach Hansen has done has been elite, and I think I believe, and he's recruiting. I just threw only two of the recruits, but I said Cola J and Pepe. I mean, both those guys are elite, and he's recruiting at an elite level. And they keep loading like that, then I think that Kenai Pepe might have a chance to start as a freshman next year. I mean, he might outside. I said might, or get crucified in the comment section.
Yeah, but him or Cola J, one of them will probably start. I bet.
Yeah,
I would put my money on.
So when you look at the talent that's coming in, and you look at the fact that we're starting walk-ons, that has to do with one, not retaining your roster. That started, and then the other part is not having the availability of the players, just reshuffling the line, because Tobias Raymond is a great guard. At this point in his career, he is not he's not really. He's struggling. Okay, I'll say he's struggling at left tackle. It's putting a lot of, asking him to bounce from, right tackle, left tackle, being in that bookend tackle, that's different. But ask him to go from inside to outside, back to inside, back to outside.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I just think, playing, just keep him there at the left guard and just allow him, to play guard. Because I think he's a great guard. I just think it's unfair to the kid to keep having to go bounce back and forth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one thing, Tim, to change each year, like start off as tackle, then go to guard, then go to center. He's done it in season. Every week is playing a different spot, and not just left guard to left tackle. He's going over to right, like totally different sides. So if they can go into next year with like, all right, you are our starting left guard, he could be one of the top guards in the conference. But yeah, moving him around, I agree with you. Like that's brutal. It's the way it's had to be, just because of the depth, because of the injuries. It's not like, the coaches have wanted it to be that way. They would tell you straight up, like, we do not want this guy to have to move all over the place. We've just been kind of forced to, and luckily he's a team guy that wants to do that. So, but I'm still high on the Easton Taffa also. I think is going to be a really good player to Utah. Tim, I don't know if you saw it, just as we started recording, and I'm not putting anything out for USC right now, but Samuel Utu just decommitted from Alabama. He was a big
that's right. Olu, right?
Olu, that he was getting big looks from USC and then ended up going to Alabama. He just decommitted like 10 minutes ago.
Wow.
Might be set at offensive line in this class, but you never know.
Yeah. It's fluid. It's recruiting. What is it? It's one of the 247 guys. I think it's Gerard says, recruiting's fluid, and that's exactly what it is. It's just things, dominoes fall, things change, and you never know.
Yeah. Let's talk. Let's pivot over to defense. Obviously, rough outing overall. Injuries, I think, were certainly a key factor, but you got to play the game. And I think I want to get more your opinion on this, Tim, but I think this team defensively, just in terms of the player skill set, has depth. It is just so young. And unfortunately, that youth needs time to develop, especially when you're a backup. You're not even getting first team reps in practice. And on the back end, you have guys, and not just on the back end, you have other players that are still playing out of position because of these depth issues. I mean, Eric Gentry should not be covering a receiver out wide, but they were forced to because they're missing both nickel corners or both nickel guys going into this game. So it was really just a perfect storm for this defense and their injuries, and the fact that going up again, and I get Oregon had injuries too. So, I mean, that they overcame those injuries with the depth and what they were able to do offensively, but it was just too much. And we're not even talking about all the mistakes and whatnot, but I think the injuries were just too much for USC to overcome with the current depth that is, more so because of the youth. But what was your thoughts overall on the defense?
I think you just nailed it. It was in the title of our live show. We talked about in the live shows. First thing I brought up, both sides had significant injuries. What we saw is that because of program building, because of the consistency in NIL, because of the rosters being stocked, and again, going before Lanning got there, going all the way back to when Mario Cristobal was there, they've been rolling. Their front office has been rolling. We're just kind of getting started, and they're starting to stock it up. But we saw that we have young talent, but inexperienced talent. They brought in players, young guys as well. Backups. Their backups weren't exactly like seasoned veterans, all of them, but they did have talent in the trenches that they could almost plug and play. It looked like their offensive line didn't miss a beat. You know what I mean? They were still kind of dominating up front. They're missing 3 linemen, and they were dominating our defensive lines. That's never a good sign. And we weren't missing people up front, Ryan. You know what I mean? So that was us, our starters going against their backups, and we weren't able to do it. And that just shows you the difference between a program that's kind of been rolling for a while and one that's on the up. The USC, guys, make no mistake about it, I'm being a little bit negative about this, but the trajectory is up. Win next week, 9-3, possibly 10-3. That's going up. First number 1 recruiting class, that's going in the right direction. Yep. But right now they're just not there. They don't have the depth to compete in the Big Ten and against schools like Notre Dame, when you're missing, like, for instance, look at the Illinois game, just having Kamari Ramsey out, and then having to rely on the young safeties back then. In this game, having both our safeties out and having to rely on Urlacher to come in and Pierce to come in. It's been a struggle. I mean, the guys are playing good. They're young, but they're lacking experience. Neither one of those guys are like first-year freshmen, but neither one of them has a lot of experience. Pierce has been on the field a lot this year, but again, still learning position and starting the season out again without Chase and Johnson. I mean, that was huge. Having Alex Graham, who was expected to get a lot of time here, out, that was tough. Having Prophet Brown miss the entire season as well, that's tough. Injuries happen, but we had to rely too much on the inexperienced youth of this team, and they just weren't ready, either talent-wise or experience-wise, to match a school like Oregon right now when they're rolling. You guys going into Autzen to beat a top 6 team and giving up, 14 points. If you missed a field goal, give them 4 points on the touchdown they score, and then the punt return. You're not going to win many games that way.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, the mistakes, obviously, we talked extensively on the live. Go ahead. One more thing is if you guys aren't following Sua Cravens on Twitter, or if you're not listening to him on ESPN, especially, I don't know what you're doing, because he said it. It was crass, but it was valid and true. You just got to pay players. Look at Oregon. Look what they did. They came in, they took 2 of our best linemen and said, "We'll have these 2. Thank you. We're going to the playoffs." USC has to go out there and go to schools and say, "Oh, I know he's starting on a pretty damn good team, but here, you know what? Here's some cash. Come over to our school," because that's what people are doing. Yes, we have a great recruiting class coming in, but that's not going to fix next year. USC has to go out, like Sua Craven said, and go spend that cash. And that's, I think, what they'll do this year with Chad Bowden and his staff in place. And that doesn't mean, like, I want to be clear, and I think you would agree, that doesn't mean they're abandoning their new plan of recruit and develop. That just means you got to go get some key blue chip players in the portal at key positions. You're not going to get 25 transfers, but if you're going to go get 10 to 12 like they did last year, let's have an 80% success rate on those 10 to 12 instead of unfortunately the hit rate wasn't as high this year. Plus some guys were, obviously with injury. I mean, you look at this defense, Tim. Kennedy Urlacher was a spring portal transfer, but he was not expected to start at safety this year. He actually was one that Chad Bowden, one of the 3 that he was able to assist in when he got here. But you look at the true transfers, the only one available on defense was Keyshawn Silver. I mean, Bishop Fitzgerald out, Chasen Johnson out, DJ Harvey for whatever reason just didn't unfortunately live up to the hope when he transferred over. John Jarrett out. I mean, everyone that transferred over that was seemingly going to make an impact on this defense did not play in this game. And so that is a big deal, along with obviously the other players you're developing on, is you have to win in those transfer portal battles. And Oregon, no one wants to hear it, but they crush in the transfer portal. They do really well in the transfer portal. So they get those guys in. I mean, who'd they get? They had a D lineman last year that they got transferred. They ended up being a first round pick. Do you remember who I'm talking about today? They got last year in the portal, and he was, I can't remember his name right now.
I was cheating. I was actually looking that up right now as we spoke. But I mean, look at Ohio State with Caleb Downs. Look at what Oregon did this year with Pregnon and with Bear Alexander.
He was just drafted.
Derek Harmon. Derek Harmon was the defensive tackle that came in. Yes, he was in the running for him as well. They want to, but again, you got to spend that cash.
If Bowden was here, they would have gotten Harmon, I bet you.
And that would have been difference maker on last year's team. And wow, imagine having a Derek Harmon in the center there. I mean, I know it's not going to fix all the problems, but you talk about him being the difference in those close games, you guys, where we were getting gashed right up the middle. Derek Harmon would have got not only that, but he was a legitimate pass rush threat from the inside. So that just changes the game. You get those havoc plays that leads to a turnover, either interception or a strip sack. Those are game changers in games that USC is losing by less than 7 points. So yeah, Derek Harmon, great example.
Yeah. So these are guys I think that will be addressed with in the offseason. And so I know no one wants to hear it, after a tough loss like that, but I think that, like you said, Tim, I think the direction is still high right now. We'll get into a lot of UCLA talk here after this episode, but yeah, it was an unfortunate defensive performance, obviously. But they just couldn't overcome what they had to. And, once you have the roster that has the depth of some of the other top teams, you are more likely to in that road situation. The other thing, and I never like singling players out, but I'm not going to say it in a real negative way, but unfortunately, I think Eric Gentry had maybe his worst game as a Trojan, like of his Trojan career. Part of that was at fault of, blame whoever, you can coaching injuries, whatever, but he just had to play out of position so often in this game, which is just unfair to him. I mean, I think he can play a little outline nickel a little bit because of his size, but I mean, obviously coming off the edge, being that true kind of will linebacker is what his skill set is. And he was just having to do so many different things. I mean, they had that weird kind of dime Mike formation where they had both Stevens and Jaden Walker, and then him like behind them. They had him out wide. Yeah. So he was just tasked to do too much out of his comfort zone. And unfortunately it showed because his performance, and then when he was even back in his natural position, it's like he's probably thinking all these different things, and unfortunately just had a pretty brutal game. So when your best defensive player still available because of the injury has his worst game of his arguably USC career, that also is going to lead to a loss most likely.
And going into the season, you're talking about two guys, Kamari Ramsey, who did not play, he was out with injury, and then, like you said, and then having Gentry wearing multiple hats for the whole season. Early in the season, he was actually having some, gains, but later on, as it kind of went in, they were asking him to fill more holes. I think you're spot on that. They're asking him to do things that really aren't his thing. Get him up on the line, let him pass rush. That's really what his specialty is, getting guys in the hole or getting guys behind the lane, using his freakish get off and speed and length in those plays, and then dropping back. You drop back in a zone, right? Not man to man, trying to cover these guys running across the field with him. That's just unfair for him to do. But having him getting in passing lanes and rushing the passer, that's what he excels at,
Yeah, just containing the edge, right? Backs don't make it to the edge when he's containing the edge. Quarterbacks can't escape the pocket when he's QB spying containing the edge, but he wasn't able to do that.
You saw that in this game. I think it was Moore running back. It was late in the game on a crucial third down, and he gets outside and he pushes him out. It does not allow him the edge to get that first down. So yeah, I mean, you're spot on with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that I think was the tale of this defense in this game, was just the youth, the inexperience, and just guys having to play out of position. And I don't care how many guys are out in Oregon. That's a deep, good football team with a good offensive coordinator and a really good quarterback in Dante Moore, and 7 good running backs. I'm exaggerating. They had 3 really good running backs. So when you have all the issues that USC had, unfortunately, it's just, you're not going to overcome it. So, yeah, we'll see next year. I got to say, Tim, though, and we can wrap this up here. This feels like, and I know I'm a newer USC guy. You're been around longer. But this feels like a new budding rivalry. I don't know how anyone can deny that. USC Oregon is a new budding rivalry. They play at the Call-In next year. It's going to be a lot of excitement for that game. I think if this game gets on the schedule every year, I'm not saying that tradition is a rivalry, but moving forward, I think this can be a really fun Big Ten rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, SC fans don't want to admit it, but it's
I don't know how you deny it, right?
It has, because I'll take my hat off and I'll put my fan hat on. And I'll tell you, it's because we just don't really respect them. But you guys, you know what? They're winning so much on the field now. They're doing what's right in the front office. Now it's legal to play the way they're doing it. So I mean, you know, they are a rival. As much as you don't want to admit it, I think I've said this before. There's protected rivalries in the Big Ten, random ones too. It's kind of bizarre on some of them. I don't understand some of them.
Yeah.
And you could have USC playing Oregon and Washington and UCLA those as their protected rivalries. The old Pac-12 guys, it's baked in. Why isn't this happening? I'd like to know. I mean, I think the reason why is TV, Ryan, is because they want SC playing especially the USCs and Oregons playing the top schools and moving them around. They don't want half of this, you know, a third of their season, a third of their conference season to be wrapped up in playing the Pac-12. But heck, I think that's even great TV for the Pac-12. You can almost have the Pac-12 championship within the Big Ten championship. You know, who runs it out, because that would be great to see as well. So it'd be nice. But yeah, anyone saying that Oregon's not become a rivalry, they are. They're just not the program USC is, because they're about 11 national championships and 8 Heisman short, and I don't know how many All-Americans short of talking like they're our peer. They have the last like decade or so, it's all them.
Yeah.
USC, you can't argue that.
Yeah,
it's all them. You know, SC has their crap together. But when USC has their crap together, Oregon doesn't have a chance, Ryan. It won't be a rivalry then. Once USC starts getting its stuff together, and which I think they are doing, it will not be a rivalry. Come at me, Ducks. Please come at me in the comment section. I'd love to hear you, because history's on my side.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, to me, I see a rivalry being like a true like dislike for a team and fan base. Like obviously what you're saying, Tim, which I agree with, there's like tradition and pageantry and head-to-head records and whatnot. Like I get that. But in modern day, like social media era, I mean, USC and Oregon fans hate each other. I mean, especially with recruiting, it's a big rivalry. I mean, I've never had more Oregon fans in my DMs after that game. I'm like, you guys won, just enjoy it. And Oregon's like all over me over stuff. And I'm like, clearly
that's
there's like
it, Ryan.
a thing
That's
here.
just it, though. That's why they're Oregon. This is their Super Bowl. They don't talk about national championships, right? Listen, I can't talk too much crap because they walked right into the Big Ten and won that thing. But this is their whole life. All they ever talk about, they can't talk about national championships. So what they do is they talk about their record against USC over the past 10 years, which is great. Kudos to you guys, but we still own the overall. We have a landslide in the overall record, and just get used to it, Ryan. That's how Oregon fan is. Oregon fans all about beating USC. They're obsessed with it.
Yeah. But I know the Big Ten wants to create this USC Penn State rivalry. That's one that they've like want to create. It should be USC Oregon. Like that should be on the slate every year. I think that's it's an easy baked in rivalry, like you said, West Coast. And I mean, we could do this. Obviously, the whole Notre Dame conversation we'll save for another time. But you could do it every year, where it's literally Oregon, UCLA back to back. Like those are the final 2 games of the season. Ooh. Oregon, UCLA. It'd be brutal.
I don't think you want to do that, though. I mean, I get you, but I don't know if that's going to be. I think they should play every year, but I don't think they just play back to back, because having those 2 in a row. Although the way UCLA is playing, and this is rivalry week, so we can get into this. But I
mean, to me though, it's like, okay, so the second to last week of the season is USC Oregon, and then the last week is USC UCLA and Oregon Washington. It kind of like works for both in terms of situationally and geographically. You get closer games at home to end the season. You're not traveling cross country. So, but those would be 2 brutal games back to back. But
I mean, definitely throw Washington in there as well.
Yeah.
I mean, November could be just playing your traditional rivalries in November. I'm all for that.
100%. So,
but then give us Purdue and Rutgers. Throw those guys in there for us as well. Yeah. And Michigan. I'm kidding, Michigan fans. I'm kidding. But yeah, schools we can dominate. So,
any closing thoughts on this before we put a bow on this Oregon game and kind of turn our sights to UCLA?
It's painful, but USC's not there. I was over my skis for the second year in a row. I mean, last year I wasn't as confident, but this year I was so confident they fixed the defense. You can see the pieces are there. You can see the coaching's there, the development's there. You can see the recruiting is there. Let's give Chad Bowden a full year. Let's give him the offseason to bring in, a Caleb Downs, like we just talked about, Let's allow the level of player that, and not lose guys like Pregnon. And let's not lose guys. Bear was Bear. I'm not going to blame that on NIL. But to lose a Pregnon, that was painful. So, if you could bring in a Harmon, or if you that level of guy, I do have faith that Chad Bowden's going to make those swing guys, because Oregon does it every year. They got Dante Moore out of the portal. Think of 3 guys we just named. These are transfer guys, and their guys are hitting. Yep. Our success rate on our transfers, you need impact guys that are going to come in and start. That's what USC's got to do. Have your nucleus, which I have on offensive line. Have your nucleus of guys on defense, and then plug in guys like, I'll tell you what, we had you had Fitzgerald come in here and look at the difference he made. So I can't say that they swung and missed on everything, but they need more of those. They definitely need more of those players.
Yeah, no, they definitely hit on a few for sure. Just unfortunately, the few they hit were all injured in this one. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it was like the perfect storm, literally. But yeah, I agree. I'll just close with, I think, tough loss. They got beat. They had the mistakes, they had the injuries, but Oregon was the better football team in this one. And USC still has work to do. But I've said this all along. I truly believe they're on the right path. I truly believe that this coaching staff and Lincoln Riley is making strides. And, the whole 4 years thing, we'll talk all about that in the offseason. So we'll get to that conversation about all that fun stuff that everyone's fired up about. But as it pertains to kind of this game, tough loss. This team can still go 9-3, play in a meaningful bowl game, and set themselves up with the number 1 recruiting class, which, again, today, Tim, there's been quite a few decommitments from big-time programs, and USC still has yet to have one, and we're only 10 days away from the signing period. So if they can get all 35 through the door next Wednesday, then that's a huge win for this staff, for this program. And, if they can finish 9-3, then, again, we'll talk after the season, but I think that's a pretty successful 2025.
And remember, these losses suck, but if you're recruiting linemen, if you're recruiting guys on defense, you can point directly to, hey man, you're the difference next year. Yeah. You are going to, you're going to get playing time. Don't worry about that. You're going to get on the field. And they can point to guys this year that came in as freshmen. Look at what they did with Bucard. Look what they did with Stewart. They say, hey, look, we need to fill some spots. So playing time, NIL, I think our guys are locked up.
Yeah, 100%. So, well, we will be back all week with plenty USC talk. It is rivalry week, battle for the victory bell. Get that saran wrap out, cover those statues, protect yourself as the fun is about to begin all week long. For Tim Prangley, I'm Ryan Dyward. Thank you as always. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. Help this thing keep growing. And as always, family, fight on. Hey, Trojan family, thank you so much for hanging out and watching the USC LAFB show. Before you go, let me tell you quickly about our friends over at Sleeper. Go right now, download the Sleeper app. It's the #1 sports app, not just for season-long fantasy, but they've got live pickers, they've got live stat updates, they've got a chat that you can chat with other users, plus the daily pick'em, which is a blast, or daily fantasy, whatever you want to call it. You go and pick 2 to 8 players across any sports. If you're talking USC, go choose Jade Mayav in his next matchup. Pick more or less passing yards, more or less touchdowns. You stack those, and you can win real money. When you go to make your first deposit, make sure you use our promo code USCLAFB. You're going to get a match deposit up to $100. Put in $100, you get $100 free to play with from Sleeper. Put in $10, they'll match you that $10. So now you're sitting at $20 to play with. But also right now, for any new users, no deposit required. You get $20 free entry. You can stack both. You can get the $20 for free. Go make a deposit. Use USC LAFB. And now you've got a bunch of free money to play with right there on the Sleeper app. Check it out, Trojan family. And when you do, tell them the guys at the USC LAFB sent you.
It's never too early for Lowe's Black Friday deals. Snag some of our biggest savings of the season right now, like 25% off select pre-lit artificial Christmas trees. And get yourself free select DeWalt, Cobalt, or Craftsman tools when you buy a select battery or combo kit before the Black Friday rush. Because everyone loves free stuff, right? Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 12/3 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.